sort of, accessing more of our own self-realization. And the last video I just made was about shame and about how um, shame is kind of the number one inhibitor that stops us from progressing and really becoming more of who we really are, really becoming our own personal, authentic life factory. Living our life how we wish, how our soul wants to, allowing our soul to come through and to express itself in the physical form, our life, our body, to the best of its ability, to the way it wants to really living your life for your soul, for yourself, for your own evolution, the challenges that you put out before you, the things that are important to you. And shame can get in the way of all that. And you might think shame is, sort of specific to topics or specific to experiences or things that people, have experienced in their lives, have done, or, whatever it is, and they'll have shame over that. And you might think it's that, but it's bigger than that. I mean, shame is much bigger than that. Shame starts as a background belief program, that we sort of pick up along the way. Chances are in our childhood, where we actually believe that we have a reason to be ashamed, where we realize, through feedback and whatever that comes from others, that perhaps we aren't enough or doing enough or being enough, or we're not the way people would like us to be, whatever, this type of thing. And this can create a background program for us that would be shame, that would be shameful. We'd have reasons to feel less than or not good enough. And shame isn't just, based on not being enough. It can be based on, hiding, not wanting to face your authentic self, not wanting to realize all the aspects of yourself. Some of them can be unnerving. Some of us can have things that, either from our childhood or from past lives that are inhibiting us or slowing us down a bit, that need to be dealt with and released and looked at. And, they come to the surface so they can be healed and released. But it doesn't always happen. People don't always have the tools or the understanding or the support in their lives. So these things can all create shame, and it's really wild, intricate, and subtle. And I would really think that for the most part, people aren't even realizing how much it's affecting them or how much they are affecting others and even promoting the act of shame or the feeling of shame in others. I mean, I'm sure none of us ever would consciously want to make our child feel shame or our family feel shame, but we do this. We do. And these things happen. And it's really interesting. Anyway, I kind of, made a little short video on it, and I thought I would elaborate on it because there's so much to it, right? And if you look at it from the perspective of mediumship, it definitely comes into play. To be a medium and to put yourself out there and decide, I'm going to do mediumship, you sort of have to get to a place where you're willing to face your shame. And when I say that, I mean, because you're willing to face that you're wrong, you're willing to face that perhaps you're going to believe, think, and act in a way that a lot of the planet isn't going to agree with. A lot of your family may not agree with, a lot of friends, people that you care about. It may alienate you from your family. All kinds of things can happen, and all kinds of shame has to be faced if you are working in the spiritual arts. People are not always taking this as a positive thing, and so that's something, I think if we decide to get into mediumship, we've sort of made that decision that we're not going to care too much about what other people think. But then this isn't true, Nicole. This is just my experience, right? Many people go through mediumship and will continue to hold on to the shame card and continue to work with it or to use it as part of their experience. And it'll affect their work, themselves, the people that they teach, everything else. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I mean, every single angle of this and every subtle aspect of it is a learning experience, right? So my experience is going to be different from somebody else's, theirs from mine. And if we can get to a point where we accept that we're all doing the good work and that we're all actually contributing towards the overall evolution of man, right? So perhaps we are all looking into mediumship or spiritual, uh, modalities in our own way, and able to uncover subtle aspects of these intricate and interesting topics in life. If we all are shamed into doing it the same way, right? Shamed into doing it her way, his way, or, don't do that or whatever, we are, well, we aren't getting there. We're not getting where we're trying to get because we're restricting ourselves. We're restricting the free flow of energy. We're restricting the evolution of man. If we make a decision as a woman or a man that this is what's mediumship, or this is what's acceptable in human life, and all these other things are aberrations of that, they're not good enough, we are judging other mediums, other people, other aspects of society. We may think that we have, I don't know, the education, the experience that gives us the right to judge others and to create these parameters around what these topics really are, and these categories, what these categories should include. But we're not God. And when we're acting like God, what are we doing? We're judging, right? We're doing something we shouldn't be doing. So, and people can go, well, everybody judges. It's what we do. Okay. So what does judge create? Judge creates shame. Judge creates somebody's right and somebody's wrong, right? So you're basically being a promoter of shame if you're judging others. And if you look at your own life and the things that you've felt shame about, um, how did you get there? How did you feel that shame? Is it because you're not good enough? It isn't. It's because you were judged and made to look that way, or look at yourself that way, I should say, by others. You were taught it perhaps in a book or, through societal norms, and you thought anything different than that is to be shamed, right? To be ashamed of. These are human perceptions and decisions and judgments that are abundant, way too abundant, and shameful to say it. And so there I am saying we shouldn't shame others, and if you do, it's shameful, you know? So it's kind of our go-to, I don't know, judgment decision. And it's to be looked at. It really is. And I think, gosh, I think a lot about it. I don't mean like I think about it often, because I definitely don't. But when I do think about it, so much comes up for me, and so much analysis of shame. And it really, this started for me analyzing shame as a child, right? As a child, somebody who was, in touch with the spirit world and being forever communicated with, and at times I would say plagued by, um, other entities, energy, beings, topics, all kinds of stuff. Not necessarily the great discarnate realm that I'm talking to now, or the higher realms that we communicate with, but other aspects of energy that are available. I was ashamed of that, right? I was ashamed of that energy talking to me. I was ashamed of what it was doing to me, how I was reacting and feeling. I was scared. Most of all, I was ashamed to let it out in regular life, because I was a little kid and I was having a hard time understanding what was going on. Very few people, if any, around me were willing to have the topic or the conversation, and most of them felt I should never discuss it, right? Fair, I get it. Um, but anyway, I was made to feel shame about my connection to the spirit world. Later in life, I was made to feel shame about all kinds of things, right? Was anybody a bad person? God, no. These people love me. I love them. I mean, this is life, this is family, this is life. But the shame and the act of making others feel shame is a habit that we have as a human race. And we use this habit on each other, and we interact in this way. And we, find ourselves criticizing or judging others. And the act of that is designed to make them feel shame. And if they feel shame, maybe they'll stop the behavior, or maybe they'll hide the behavior. In most cases, they'll hide the behavior. So it creates division, shame, division. And, there's a million topics as we continue to evolve and grow up. We do all kinds of things that we can now be ashamed about. And so we learn to be more secretive and more hidden and more unauthentic in how we live and not necessarily true to ourself and soul. And this can happen to a lot of people. And once you get to school, oh boy, there's like the shame factory, really. And then once you have children in school, God help you if your kids aren't perfect or they aren't high achievers, because then you're going to be made to feel shame as a parent. They're going to be made to feel shame as students and children. It goes on and on. And at some point, the buck's got to stop here. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, we have to take responsibility for these unconscious, subtle behaviors that we as the human race are bestowing upon our fellow man. And we need to look at what we're doing and why, figure it out. Internal analysis really is very effective. And see where we're doing it and see how we're reacting with others in our lives. And I see it in people in my life, and I see how they feel shame and how they hide it up and how they cover it up and how they react to it. I watched a video today about parents, it was more of a narcissistic parent video or something. Not that my family is that way, not at all, but just it was on one of those social media scrolling things that's ruining my eyes. So I was, popped it up. It was a funny cartoon and it showed how, as children, if we are raised in these environments, we become doers, right? So we just want to do because we've been taught that if you don't achieve or do, you should be ashamed. So we do, and we forget who we are, and we forget to be. We may become a super high support system for our parent because our parent has let us know that if we aren't, it's shameful, right? And these things go on and on and on. And it's wild and sad because the reason I say it's sad is because if there's no self-awareness of it and people don't get past it and see what they're doing and, stop the buck here and not pass it on to their kids, you're inhibiting, slowing down, reducing the chances of the children being self-realized, understanding themselves, authentically living from their soul, from who they really are. We're trying to then make them become many versions of what we think is right. We're trying to make them become what we think society will accept from them. How about we teach them to think for themselves, to be who they are, to know who they are, so that when they get a little older and start to make decisions for themselves, they'll know how to make decisions for themselves that make them happy. And I think decision making, correct, proper decision making for yourself is probably one of the most important skill sets you can have. And it isn't complicated. However, it's debilitating. People can't do it. It's really hard for people to make decisions because they need it to be perfect and they need to have the answer that is going to make the most perfect outcome that will give them the least amount of shame. It's interesting. And it's something that I think needs more thought, more perspective, more analysis. I don't know. I could write a book. Maybe one day I will. But in the meantime, I thought I'd bring it up on video and just talk about it. And I'd love to hear your comments below. Okay, ciao. Have a great day.